Hi, I'm Bakhtiar Samava and you are watching A News. Let's see the top stories shaping our world. Hamas says it has agreed to the formation of a national administration to run Gaza and is ready for a comprehensive ceasefire. Macron says that security guarantees for Ukraine are ready and will be endorsed today. Lisbon's historic Gloria funicular derails, killing 17 people and injuring 21 others. Hamas says it has agreed to the formation of a national administration to run Gaza and is ready for a comprehensive ceasefire, including the release of Israeli captives. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has dismissed the proposal, insisting the war can end only on Israel's terms. As talks stall, civilians in Gaza continue to bear the brunt of the fighting.
Hamas has said that it has agreed to the creation of an independent national administration to govern Gaza and is prepared to sign a comprehensive truce that would see all Israeli hostages released. But within hours, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office rejected the announcement. It said the war could end immediately, but only if Hamas accepts conditions set by Israel's Security Cabinet. On the ground, Israel's military pushed deeper into Gaza City, with tanks and troops advancing into the crowded Sheikh Radwan neighborhood. The offensive has left large parts of the city in ruins, despite international calls for restraint. Health officials in Gaza say at least 24 Palestinians were killed across the enclave on Wednesday, many of them children. More than 63,000 Palestinians have been killed since the war began nearly 2 years ago, according to Gaza's health authorities, while Israel maintains its campaign is aimed at destroying Hamas and freeing hostages. For families in Gaza, the prospect of a truce offers little comfort as displacement and death continue to shape daily life.
European leaders are preparing to sign off on long-term security commitments for Ukraine. The pledge comes in a critical moment as Kiev faces yet another wave of Russian airstrikes targeting vital infrastructure.
French President Emmanuel Macron announced that security guarantees for Ukraine are ready and will be formally endorsed on Thursday by a coalition of the willing nations backing Kyiv. Hosting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Élysée Palace in Paris, Macron said Europe is ready to offer the guarantees as soon as the peace agreement with Russia is reached. He emphasized that all the groundwork is already done.
Nous sommes prêts, nous Européens.
We are ready, as Europeans, to offer security guarantees to Ukraine and the Ukrainian people the day a peace deal is signed. This is the commitment we made in Washington. The contributions that were prepared, documented and confirmed this afternoon at the level of the defence ministers in an extremely confidential manner allow me to say the preparatory work is complete.
Zelensky welcomed the unified position of Europe, Ukraine and the United States, saying it might pressure Moscow to seek a diplomatic resolution.
Unfortunately, we have not received any signals from Russia that it truly wants to end this war, but I am convinced that our union, above all the Union of Europe, the Europe that has been at our side since the beginning of the war, and that this union between Europe and the United States will help us increase pressure on Russia to move towards a diplomatic solution to this complex issue, so important for peace in Ukraine and for achieving a stable peace in Ukraine and in Europe.
The leaders of Ukraine and France aligned their positions ahead of Thursday's meeting of the Coalition of the Willing. Some partners will attend the talks in Paris, while others will join online. According to the French presidency, about 30 leaders are expected to review progress on security guarantees for Ukraine. After the Paris meeting, several European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, will hold a joint call with US President Donald Trump to discuss the next steps. The meeting came as Russian forces carried out a large-scale air attack on Ukraine, striking energy and transport infrastructure. Kyiv continues to demand firm security guarantees to prevent any future Russian aggression.
European Union member states are set to allocate their highest ever amount toward military spending. The 381 billion euros budget comes as the continent faces heightened security risks from Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Our Anita Sharma reports from the Netherlands.
Welcome to this day in Europe, where EU leaders brace for a record surge in military spending this year. According to the European Defence Agency, the 27 member states of the European Union are expected to allocate close to 381 billion euros, the highest level in its history, as pressure mounts from Russia's ongoing aggression and heightened security risks on the continent. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says Europe is spending record amounts on defence to keep our people safe, and we will not stop there. For years, EU nations were criticized, particularly by Washington, for underspending on security and relying too heavily on NATO's U.S. umbrella. But the latest data shows a coordinated shift. More money is flowing into tanks, fighter jets, and advanced cyber defense. NATO members promised last June at the summit in The Hague to significantly hike annual defense spending after pressure from the U.S. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has permanently reshaped Europe's priorities. Countries like Germany, Poland, and the Baltic states are leading the push, accelerating procurement programs and boosting stockpiles. The Ukrainian president is in Copenhagen today for the Nordic-Baltic summit, which was arranged on short notice. Volodymyr Zelensky says they will discuss, quote, the need for strong pressure measures. He heads to France afterwards to meet EU and U.S. allies to discuss next steps with the coalition of the willing countries that promise to help Ukraine. The UK is among those willing and is reportedly in advanced talks to build warships for Denmark and Sweden. Sources say the discussions follow Sunday's announcement of Britain's large warship export deal with Norway, further strengthening London's role as a key defense supplier to Scandinavia. Norway says it will purchase at least 5 British Type 26 frigates. Experts note the timing is no coincidence. With Russia's fleet still active in the Baltic and Arctic regions, London and northern capitals are bolstering ties to ensure maritime security. Taken together, the EU's record defense spending and Britain's deepening naval partnerships with Scandinavia highlight a continent reshaping its security landscape, facing the reality of long-term confrontation with Moscow. For A News, I'm Anita Sharma in Arnhem, Netherlands.
Lisbon is reeling from a sudden tragedy after the city's historic Gloria funicular derailed, leaving at least 17 dead and 21 injured. Authorities say 5 of the injured are in serious condition, and an investigation into the cause of the crash is underway.
At least 17 people were killed and 18 others injured on Wednesday when Lisbon's historic Gloria funicular derailed, emergency services said. The yellow tram running up the steep hill was badly damaged. Rescue teams pulled victims from the wreckage as firefighters and police secured the area.
Well, I believe, from what I've heard, it was coming down the hill. Something was wrong with the cable. It lost control, didn't have any braking ability. When it came around the corner, it crashed into the building. But I do believe the people at the bottom are very lucky, because I have seen videos online of them escaping on the bottom cabin. So it didn't. The other one didn't hit the one at the bottom, which was actually very lucky in the end. But yeah, I think that's what happened.
Local authorities say that the investigators are now focused on determining the cause of the derailment. The names or nationalities of the victims are not yet confirmed. However, some foreigners were also said to be among the dead.
Donald Trump said on Wednesday the United States might have to unwind trade deals it reached with the European Union, Japan and South Korea, among others, if it loses a Supreme Court tariffs case, and warned that a loss would cause the United States to suffer so greatly. Trump, speaking to reporters at the White House, said his administration will ask the Supreme Court to reverse a U.S. appeals court ruling last week that found many of his tariffs were illegal. Trump, however, said he thought his administration would prevail in the case. Trump told that duties gave him leverage to strike deals with major trading partners across the world that saw America levying import duties on their products without any reasonable retaliation.
But now we made a deal with the European Union where they're paying us almost $1 trillion, and they're happy to do it. You know what? They're happy. It's done. These deals are all done. I guess we'd have to unwind them. We've done deals with Japan, with South Korea. We've done deals with many countries and others to come.
California is facing yet another raging wildfire. Thousands have been forced to leave their homes, and a historic town has been badly damaged as flames spread quickly through dry land.
California is dealing with a massive wildfire that has forced thousands of people to evacuate and left behind widespread destruction. The flames are centered in Tuolumne County, Northern California, where they have devastated parts of a historic gold rush mining town once home to thousands of Chinese immigrants. The fires began on Tuesday after a lightning storm sparked nearly 24 separate blazes. Since then, they have burned through more than 13,000 acres, destroying land, homes, vehicles, and other property. One of the hardest hit places is the small village of Chinese Camp, with less than 100 residents. Firefighters are battling the fire on steep hillsides, while air tankers drop fire retardant from above to slow the spread. So far, no injuries have been reported, but with dry grass and brush fueling the flames, the fire continues to spread quickly, leaving locals and authorities little time to act.
We'll be back after a short break. Stay with us.
We are ready to welcome everyone to come to Gabela and to make unforgettable memories.
Welcome to Gabela rafting.
This territory is the most important place in our history. Our ancestors lived here 2,000 years ago, and they had here amazing culture, amazing civilization.
There's something for everyone here. This place is the largest amusement park in Azerbaijan.
Our guests love to have meal in this atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, you see you're in nature, in the forest, and the good food.
6 tons, 579 liters.
It's a lot of wine.
And biggest cask in the world.
Bandar is not just a holiday destination. It's a symbol of Azerbaijan's growing tourism potential.
The doors are open. Welcome to Gabela, Azerbaijan.
morning, you're watching A News Live from Baku to the world.
There's a long line of...
To truly understand this conflict, we need to look beyond the normal conventions of
Well, this is a major development, not just for the governments of countries across the South Caucasus and Central Asia. Its impact is also increasingly being felt in Brussels, London and Berlin.
Welcome back to A News. China staged a massive Victory Day military parade in Beijing, unveiling new weapons and drawing global attention. The event was attended by Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, while US President Donald Trump accused the trio of conspiring against the United States. Trump also voiced disappointment in President Putin after Moscow dismissed his efforts to arrange a summit with Volodymyr Zelensky, even as Russia intensifies strikes across Ukraine. Meanwhile, Putin says he's ready to meet Zelensky, but only if the Ukrainian leader comes to Moscow. To help us unpack the significance of this parade and the broader geopolitical implications, I'm joined by Alexandra Filipenko, political analyst who is with us from Vilnius, Lithuania. Alexandra, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So let me start by asking, what message was China trying to send by staging such a grand military parade at this moment?
Well, first of all, this Beijing parade and its strategic messaging, its core theme is nuclear triad on display. China showcased for the first time its full nuclear triad. So the intercontinental ballistic missiles, the land-based, those are the furthest mile range, and the submarine launched ballistic missiles and the air launched nuclear missiles. China's first time showing them those air-launched nuclear missiles that are joining the US, Russia, India, and likely Israel in filling that air leg of the triad. That's the first time we ever saw it. And we are seeing the nuclear buildup and the trajectory also. How many warheads? Now we see that China is expanding the number of warheads to 100 annually. The US intelligence projected previously that China in only 2035 will go up to 1,000. Now we know and we realize that now by 2035, China will have at least 1,500 nuclear warheads. So they're moving at a faster pace. So the main messaging, the core theme was nuclear triad. That's on display for everyone to see. Nuclear power. China actually becoming more power nuclear-wise, strategic-wise. So this was one of the main things on display. And of course, all those photographs, all those images of Putin and Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping all together, that was also important.
Alexandra, so what do you make of the new weapons China showcased? Do they represent a shift in the global balance of power?
Not as of now, but what we're seeing, and me having my background from Russia, I know and I see, and we can all look at the history a little bit. Russia showcased those Burevestnik missiles that didn't really fly, and they still don't fly. And Russia presented them on the military parade of May 9th back in 2019. They presented the Oreshnik systems way back, and they only started working. Unfortunately, we saw them in Ukraine. That's tragic, of course. But they showcased that military equipment around 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it didn't really work. The Burevestnik system, the new nuclear missiles that Russia presented in 2019, they still do not work. They still fall down exactly on the people that make them, and there were some tragedies during the test flights. So right now, we are seeing those extra large, for example, underwater drones from China, the laser air defense weapons, the four-legged robot wolves that we've seen mounted on trucks in China in that parade. So we don't know when will they actually start working. For example, that laser air defense weapons, they are, now we know that they're planned in 2027. For now, yes, it's ship-based and land-based. It's mirroring Western efforts like Britain's Dragonfire. But we still don't know how many of them, how do they really work, if they really work. But of course, if we look at the pictures from the PR standpoint, this is very, very powerful, of course. And it is meant to scare everyone. And it is meant to show who is, let's say, the main player of the Asia-Pacific region. Of course, China is showing that they're the main player. And this is the signal, this is the message that is being sent, first of all, to Washington. That's the main messenger, that's the main place where they want this signal to go. But it is for the military experts to say if those weapons actually work. Because again, looking back at Russia, we saw some weapons that were presented in 2019 or earlier that didn't actually work. They were just modals. So the messaging is very powerful, but from the PR standpoint, first of all.
So President Donald Trump accused Xi Jinping, Putin and Kim Jong-un of conspiring against the United States. How should we interpret this political rhetoric or a genuine concern?
Well, actually, what we've been hearing from President Trump recently, I think we should already start some, I don't want to say betting game, but some kind of a game. How many times have we heard President Trump saying that he's angry with Putin? I cannot count on one hand anymore. I think we need two hands to count how many times President Trump said something about to the effect of being angry at Putin. We are hearing right now that the countries are conspiring against the United States. And that conspiring, I think this is, again, President Trump, I believe, is talking to Xi Jinping through Putin and Kim Jong-un. For President Trump, it is very difficult to go into confrontation with Xi Jinping because the US needs China to continue trading with the United States. The Chinese market is very important for US goods, but for China also the US market is very, very important. But we've seen, and again, this was evident during the parade, and it's been talked about during the parade so much that China's defense budget has risen 13 times since early 2000s. So it's a huge, huge military budget right now, the military modernization that really it serves to intimidate the United States and Taiwan, of course. So I believe that now Trump is talking to Xi Jinping through Putin and through Kim Jong-un and sending this message that yes, this visibly counters the US strategic dominance. So this is actually, well, conspiring against the United States, let's put it this way, because for President Trump, Asia-Pacific region is the most important. It's very important for him to be present there, for the United States to be present there. First of all, for the markets, because President Trump is mostly interested in markets. That's the main thing. He's not interested in military dominance. We've heard so much about the isolationism of President Trump. That's a whole different discussion if he's really an isolationist or if he's just talking about it. But countering China is very important in Asia-Pacific region. And what we're seeing right now in Latin America, and it all has to do with Latin America and Chinese power in Latin America too. So this is conspiring against the United States, I believe.
Alexandra, yesterday Putin said he is ready for talks with Zelensky, but only if the Ukrainian president travels to Moscow. How realistic is such a condition? Is this statement from Putin more of a political maneuver than a genuine offer for negotiations?
I absolutely believe that this is a political maneuver. It's very difficult for me to imagine President Zelensky traveling to Moscow. Of course, President Zelensky, as he is backed to the corner, basically, by President Trump, of course, he said that he's ready to speak with anyone, and everyone, if he can talk peace, if he can talk real ceasefire, actual ceasefire. And maybe President Zelensky could even go for that. But I don't see this happening, to be honest. I don't see this happening at all. Turkey could be a place for negotiations. Beijing also could be a place for negotiations. Even Minsk, even Belarus could be a place for negotiations. But I don't believe that Moscow is a place for negotiations, and there is any possibility for President Zelensky to go to Moscow, because this is very, very difficult to see this in any way, but of course this is a political maneuver, because Moscow many times, and the Kremlin did it many times, and they're so professional in doing that. They're offering something that they know is a non-starter. They know it's a non-starter. They know it's impossible for President Zelensky to say, yes, okay, we'll travel to Moscow. But if we look at it from across the pond, if we look at it from Washington, D.C., what's the big deal? President Trump could say, okay, if he wants to stop the war, he needs to travel wherever. But of course, this is symbolically very, let's say, doubtful. I would put it this way. I would put mildly doubtful that President Zelensky would travel to Moscow, because from every standpoint, this will be seen as bowing to Putin, that President Zelensky, of course, wants to avoid.
Alexandra, do you expect further alignment between China, Russia and North Korea in the month ahead, especially in military and economic terms?
For now, we are seeing that most probably, yes, we are seeing exactly that. And they tried to showcase it as much as possible, especially during the military parade, during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's meeting also. But it's more about India, Russia and China coming together. And of course, Modi and Putin holding hands, talking to Xi Jinping. Of course, this was a powerful picture. But during that military parade, we saw Xi Jinping, Putin, and Kim Jong-un walking in the first line, let's say, of leaders to that military parade, and everything around it really tried to send a message that, yes, they are very close. And most important thing for Putin, of course, again, is also the financial part of the cooperation, the economic cooperation with China, because China is extremely important for Russian economy right now. Russia buys everything from China, as we can understand, because the markets are closed. European markets are closed for Russia, so they have to buy everything from China, and they sell everything to China, and they need to sell everything to China to get the money from China, of course, and from India and from other countries, but mainly China. So this will all depend on how much Putin did really get, and we will see that in the coming days. How much did he really get from China? And of course, this cooperation is extremely needed. And for China, as we know, a few years ago, China declared itself the Arctic nation. After some time has passed, and during the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, they went, let's say, a step back from declaring themselves an Arctic nation. But China is building ships in order to sell goods and to ship goods through the Arctic region. For that, they need Russia. And we will see if that cooperation really is more powerful than before in the coming days and in the coming months, because this Arctic, let's say, path of goods, that must be tested somehow. So I think we will see more cooperation between Russia and China. I'm not sure about North Korea and about North Korean soldiers, if they will be in Ukraine again. This is doubtful for me, but still definitely talking about economic cooperation. This is otherwise Russian economy will not stand.
Alexandra Filippenko, thank you very much for talking to A News. We greatly appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for having me.
After the break, we'll look at the key stories shaping the region. Stay tuned.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
We are in one of the frontline areas of Ukraine. Being here and seeing things, talking to people, we can clearly tell that the war has changed drastically since its beginning in 2022. Or maybe not. Is that really the case? The war has been going on since 2014.
Ратифицировать подготовленный для подписания договор о вхождении Республики Крым и города Севастополь в Российскую Федерацию. Не сомневаюсь в вашей поддержке.
У 2014 році Росія прийшла до нас з одним словом, з новим словом. І це слово війна.
Гармата!
Some people serving here, they have been in military in this war so long, it's difficult for them to tell how they will be able to return to a normal civilian life. The story of all those people who can withstand aggression, withstand grief, and withstand their lives changing forever.
Тяжело, но держусь. Держитесь и вы все, кого я знал и с кем я был. Слава Украине! Победа за нами!
Welcome back to A News. Now let's take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. Germany has long stood as one of Georgia's key supporters on its path to the European Union. But recently, Berlin's tone has changed, balancing encouragement with caution. A video message from Germany's ambassador has stirred debate, particularly among young Georgians, over what EU membership truly entails and how distant it might still be. Our correspondent has more.
Germany's message to Georgia on its European path is changing, and that matters. In a video to the Ilya Uni student movement, German ambassador Peter Fischer stressed that the European Union has offered Georgia membership. He called it an invitation to live together in the living room of Europe. Fischer told students that joining would not mean giving up traditions, religion, or national pride, pointing to the EU's own diversity, where 27 member states coexist with their cultures and faiths. But the ambassador also issued a stark warning. Under the current course of Georgia's government, EU membership will not be possible. Even visa-free travel, he said, could be at risk. That's a striking shift. Germany has traditionally been one of Georgia's most reliable advocates in Brussels. Now Berlin's tone reflects broader European unease about Tbilisi's direction. In Brussels, the picture is clear. The door for Georgia remains open, but only if democratic reforms and rule of law are strengthened. Support is conditional, a contrast to earlier years when Europe's backing felt more unconditional. At home, the message is politically charged. The ruling Georgian Dream Party often argues that the EU integration would erode national identity and religion. Fisher rejected that, noting that Europe itself is built on faith, freedom and tradition, from Catholic Malta to Protestant Denmark, from Orthodox Bulgaria to secular France. It's Nini Nicolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, A-News.
New data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia shows a modest rise in the country's inflation last month, increasing by 0.3%. The annual inflation rate now stands at 4.6%. This was primarily driven by higher prices for transport and certain food items like food and dairy. However, consumers found some relief with a sharp 10% drop in vegetable prices and lower costs for clothing. These decreases helped to balance out the overall price increases across the economy. Next week, representatives from various districts of the United States will visit Armenia to discuss the Trump-ruled project. Armenian media reports. According to the sources, the American representatives will discuss not only the technical, but also the political aspects of the corridor. They will also touch upon the volume of investment in the project, priorities, and the timeline for the start of the construction. At present, official sources are not providing information about the details and agenda of the visit. Based on Armenian media reports, the discussions will be held in a closed format, and the decisions made will be directly linked to the formation of a new logistical reality in the region. Turkey's Izmir hosts the 4th Azerbaijan-Turkey Energy Forum with the participation of Azerbaijan's Energy Minister Parviz Shahbazov and Turkey's Energy and Natural Resources Minister Alparslan Bayraktar. The forum features discussions on a wide range of areas including hydrocarbons and petrochemicals, renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy regulation, mining and other topics. The event concludes with the signing of a protocol. Within the framework of the protocol, the parties agreed to maintain and strengthen cooperation and coordination in global and regional organizations in the energy sector. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan outlined Ankara's efforts to strengthen ties with Beijing on his return from China, where he took part in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. Our Aliya Aziz has more in Istanbul.
Turkey is stepping up efforts to deepen ties with China while also keeping a firm hand in global peace diplomacy. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, speaking on his return from the SCO summit in Tianjin, said Ankara is working to expand cooperation with Beijing in fields ranging from trade and energy to health and digital technologies. He underlined that Turkey doesn't see East-West division, but rather seeks to build connections across regions. Erdogan also pressed for China's support in shaping what he called a more prosperous international order, noting that Turkey will continue to defend dialogue-based, people-centered policies on every platform. On the Russia-Ukraine war, he reaffirmed that negotiations remain the only path to peace. Erdogan recalled Turkey's success in brokering the Black Sea grain corridor and prisoner swaps, saying talks in Istanbul had already proven the potential of dialogue. He emphasized that Ankara stays in close contact with both President Vladimir Putin and President Volodymyr Zelensky, urging all sides to make peace over conflict. Erdogan also highlighted regional developments, pointing to the Zangezur Corridor agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia as a step that will boost trade, open borders, and to expand normalization in the South Caucasus. For Ankara, strengthening ties with Beijing, advancing peace in Ukraine, and supporting regional stability all point that Turkey intends to advocate for world peace and stability. For A News, this is Aliya Aziz, Istanbul, Turkey.
Uzbekistan and China have signed deals worth more than $500 million at the recent Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Tianjin. For more on that, we go to Tashkent and our Sevil Rajapova.
Uzbekistan and China have signed agreements worth $550 million to expand cooperation in agriculture and innovation. The projects include a $150 million initiative to go on processed tobacco across 3 Uzbek regions, with annual production expected to reach 30,000 tons of fill materials. Alongside this, a $400 million Uzbek-Chinese Innovation Center will be established in Jizak region on 30 hectares of land, with construction beginning in 2026. The center is set to drive modern farming technologies, agritourism and research cooperation. These deals were concluded during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, where President Shavkat Mirziyoyev participated in high-level discussions. The summit resulted in the adoption of the Tianjin Declaration and the SCO developed a strategy until 2035, outlining new goals for trade, transport, security and green transformation. On the sidelines, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev met with Chinese President Xi Jinping, as both leaders praised the record bilateral trade, which reached $14 billion last year, with plans to raise it to $20 billion. They also signed agreements in healthcare, digital economy, education, culture and space research. The Uzbek leader further held talks with heads of major Chinese corporations, securing commitments for new joint ventures in energy, infrastructure and advanced industry, adding to a portfolio of projects already exceeding $60 billion. In Beijing, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev also met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders emphasized the importance of maintaining momentum in trade and investment cooperation, accelerating new joint projects in priority sectors, and deepening regional ties, including throughout industrial parks.
The 8th Astana Finance Days Forum has opened in the Kazakh capital. It's the region's largest platform for discussing the future of finance, investment and technology. This year, more than 5,000 participants from 70 countries have come to Astana. With the details, our correspondent Fariza Kalimurzuna reports from Astana.
Hello from Astana. The Kazakh capital opened the 8th Astana Finance Days. Over the years, this event has become not only a calling card for Kazakhstan, but also a prominent platform on the global financial map. This year's theme is where capital empowers the future. The phrase carries a dual meaning. Astana itself rapidly evolving into a financial hub connecting East and West, and capital in its many forms as the foundation for sustainable growth, innovation and green transformation. The forum has drawn more than 5,000 participants from over 70 countries. Among them are investors, bankers, corporate leaders and government officials. The agenda ranges from traditional financial instruments and regulation to fintech, cryptocurrencies and the future of global markets. One of the headline speakers is Brett King, a globally recognized futurist, best-selling author, startup founder and host of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast with listeners in more than 180 countries. And his presence in Astana highlights the scale and ambition of this forum. Answering my question on the sidelines of the event, Brett King said that artificial intelligence will gradually replace cash. He stressed that this shift opens tremendous opportunities for business and society, while also posing serious risks that require urgent attention. But still, he emphasized that the opportunities clearly outweigh the challenges.
But if you think about the layer of services that are coming based on AI, for example, autonomous transportation and autonomous shopping with your AI agent to go and do your discretionary spending, longevity treatments for better health, all of this is going to require digital money. You will not be able to operate in the economy of the future in cash. So the most advanced economies in the world will be cashless over the next 10 years. And this is a trend we're seeing globally.
Another highlight of this year is the Astana Finance Days Exhibition Hub, a unified platform where companies in capital markets and digital innovation showcase their solutions, strengthen their market presence and build strategic partnerships. The lineup of speakers includes leading Kazakhstani experts as well as executives from Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon, Brookfield and other major global players. But beyond the big names, what stands out is the atmosphere of open dialogue about how capital can work not just for profit but for long-term resilience and sustainable development. And over the next 2 days, we'll be reporting from here, bringing you the key debates, the main challenges and the boldest ideas shaping the world of finance. From Astana, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalmurzina, A News.
We'll be back after a short break. When we return, we'll discuss how Azerbaijan and Turkey are strengthening their strategic energy partnership through collaboration in hydrocarbons, renewables and energy regulation at the 4th Energy Forum in Izmir. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Orkun Amashov. Welcome to Dialogue of Civilizations. No man is an island entire of itself. Our true connection as species go far beyond digital technology. In this exciting new series, I'll be exploring a vast and fascinating history of connections between civilizations and revealing secret bonds that have helped societies, cultures and religions peacefully coexist. Join me and let's explore together.
We are ready to welcome everyone to come to Gabela and to make unforgettable memories.
Welcome to Gabala rafting.
This territory is the most important place in our history. Our ancestors lived here 2,000 years ago, and they had here amazing culture, amazing civilization.
There's something for everyone here. This place is the largest amusement park in Azerbaijan.
Our guests love to have meal in this atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, you see you're in nature, in the forest, and the good food.
It's 6 tons, 579 liters.
And it's a lot of wine.
And biggest cask in the world.
Bandar is not just a holiday destination. It's a symbol of Azerbaijan's growing tourism potential.
The doors are open. Welcome to Gabala, Azerbaijan.
Welcome back to A News. Now we turn to Turkey's city of Izmir, where the 4th Azerbaijan-Turkey Energy Forum brings together top officials, including Azerbaijan's Minister of Energy, Parviz Shahbazov, and Turkey's Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Alparslan Bayraktar. The forum covers a wide spectrum of areas, from hydrocarbons and petrochemicals to renewable energy, efficiency, mining and regulation, and is expected to conclude with the signing of a protocol that further cements the two countries' strategic energy partnership. Joining us now is Osama Rizvi, energy and economic analyst from Lahore, Pakistan. Mr. Rizvi, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Rizvi, what is the significance of holding this year's Azerbaijan-Turkey Energy Forum in Izmir?
Well, this is a very significant event in that, and we've discussed this in the previous interviews as well, that both of these countries are coming out as important energy hubs in the region. And we should also remember that Azerbaijan and Turkey has a very good economic relation, wherein Azerbaijan is the second largest investor in the country of around $20 billion. Having such forums, and given how the forum has evolved recently, I think it is a significant development, and it will only get further attention as well, and it will only improve in matters of regulation and infrastructure development on both ends.
Mr. Rizvi, Azerbaijan and Turkey already enjoy deep cooperation in hydrocarbons. What new opportunities are emerging in oil and gas sector?
Once again, Turkey is dependent upon imported energy, and Azerbaijan has a lot of it, according to some estimates, around 13 trillion cubic feet of gas and about some 100 billion barrels. Even right now, it supplies 25 to 30% of gas to Turkey. And given the fact that it is also developing its Shah Deniz field and Absheron field, the production in Azerbaijan is expected to go up. So as it goes up, it will offer a lot of opportunities for Turkey, not only to have a reliable supplier, but also as they scale up the capacity of the Trans-Anatolian pipeline from 6 BCM to somewhere 30 BCM, that will also allow more Azerbaijan gas to go towards European countries, and Turkey will become a beneficiary as a transit country. So there are multiple opportunities here. Another opportunity is, of course, in the renewable sector we may discuss. But yeah, definitely this is a win-win situation.
So renewable energy is a major discussion point at the forum. Where do you see the biggest potential for joint projects?
Yeah, so in terms of renewable energy, Azerbaijan is planning around 27 gigawatt of onshore renewable projects, wind, 157 gigawatts of offshore projects. So this presents with a big opportunity for Turkey that want to become part of this green energy and what might become a green energy corridor. There is already some work being done in Turkey in terms of developing a 1,000 interconnection, and Nakşavan can be used as a hub to supply this renewable energy to Turkey. So there are multiple opportunities in this regard. Of course, it should be followed with complementary regulation and infrastructure, but I'm sure that the forum has already covered that in detail.
Mr. Rizvi, energy efficiency and regulation are also on the agenda. Why are these areas critical for both countries?
Energy efficiency and regulation are critical, of course, because without this is the spine, the structure on all of that I have discussed or proposed will eventually have grid reallocation or grid modernization or tariffs or other regulatory matters will be the prerequisite for all of this cooperation to ensue and develop and benefit both the countries. How the forum started from sort of a political dialogue forum, and now it has 4 to 5 different areas, which includes mining, renewables, and energy, and other developments as well. So I can see that the forum has scaled up, it has developed, and it now definitely covers a regulation aspect as well.
And mining cooperation is also highlighted at the forum. How could these sectors strengthen economic ties? What do you think?
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to catch
mining sector is also highlighted at the forum.
Mining, of course.
Yes. How could this sector...
Mining is a very important sector, and Turkey is considered to be one of the most mineral-rich countries in the world. But despite that, have a huge current account deficit, and this is of course true for both petrochemicals and mining as well. It turns out that they have potential, but it has not been yet. Given Azerbaijan's growing influence and improving economy, Azerbaijan can become an important investor in the country. Similarly, Azerbaijan also has a lot of minerals, and both the countries can help become part of what is called the modern economy, right? Superconductors, semiconductors, earth elements. This is the backbone of the modern economy. And if both countries scale up their operations and the volumes, they become instantaneously relevant to the world out there.
Mr. Rizvi, how might global energy market volatility shape Azerbaijan-Turkey energy strategies?
Well, not only this forum, but in the previous 3 to 4 years, I've been noticing a pattern wherein, you see a coalescing of energy forces in it. The prime reason of this has been the recent wars and geopolitical tensions. And if such developments proceed, that can certainly give a sense of security, at least to the regional players in terms of gas supply or energy flows. Not only that, Azerbaijan supplies around gas to 12 European countries. So, and the recent developments of the Shanghai summit have, the signing of the Power of Siberia too, that also hints towards a further shift in Russian gas flows, leaving in countries at the of global oil forces. So that also give Europe another option and a sense of security. So all of these come together really well, really becoming an important energy hub.
Mr. Rizvi, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your insights on the Azerbaijan-Turkey Energy Forum. We greatly appreciate your expertise. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News for more.